Let's get started here. Okay, let's talk about the coolest job I ever worked on. It's a pretty interesting story because it was one of the worst jobs I ever worked on from the start. Now, what had happened, we got put on this job. It was super muddy. I mean, bad. So bad that we had to leave. Before we had to leave, I was running chipper. We had a new skidder guy there who was getting stuck all the time. It was so nasty. It was horrible. I actually blew up the motor in the skidder. I ran it one morning for him, like just a couple bundles is all I pulled. Had an oil leak off the turbo, ruined the motor. So we got out of that job, and then we came back afterwards to a couple other jobs in the middle of the summer. The coolest part about this job was it was in a big game ranch, and it was kind of, it wasn't, I wouldn't say run down, but it wasn't, they didn't sell hunts anymore. But there was still elk there and whitetail and an emu. And so we'd have to drive in this job. We got the chipper buried one day. I mean, it was bad. It was so bad. We pulled the chipper in off the road. We got it buried. Now, back then, we didn't have no cat skidders. We had the John Deere and Timberjacks. And those are not wore out. They're good spares, but they're pretty wore out at the time. So what had happened, if we get that chipper stuck, we was in problems. So we got that thing stuck. We had all the skidders and both bunchers on it, trying to get that thing out of there. It was a hassle. We pulled it in off the road, got it buried, so the only thing we could figure out was just start chipping wood. So we started just blowing chips on the ground. And then we got a truck in there, tried to get some more chips out of the way. It just wouldn't work. And we got the truck, we got the chip van out, or the chipper out, I'm sorry. We got the chipper out, I mean, just before dark. We worked all day on it. And we told the boss, this ain't gonna work. You're not gonna get no trucks out of here. So we took off, went to some more jobs. And then we came back. And let me tell you what, that day we got the chipper buried, I was walking back to the pickup because that was at like a little different spot, because obviously we pulled the chipper back in there. I rode a machine back there. I had to walk back to the pickup. It was a couple hundred yards. And I knew there was elk in there, but we hadn't seen a lot of them. I seen a couple cows back in there wandering around, no big deal. So I go to start walking back to the pickup, and here stood these two bulls. And I mean, I think they were either 6x6s or 7x7s. Monsters. And they're 50 yards away from me looking at me. And I'm thinking to myself, oh goodness, like I had never been this close to a big animal before, let alone two of them, and they're both staring at me. And I'm just hoping that they're more afraid of me than I am of them. So I literally just they spooked me because I didn't know they were standing there. They're just standing there, both of them just staring at me. I just was like, so I stopped and I looked. I had to walk around them two bulls. It didn't bother them a bit. And so I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, these were the coolest things ever. And so the whole gist of the story is, this was an awful cool place to work. I'll never forget chipping. And I watched those bulls and other bulls 100 yards behind the chipper take off running across there. I'm chipping up wood, and there's big bull elk running around. There's an emu that wanders over, and it liked its chin rubbed. So it'll come up to you and look you in the face with its goofy red eyes, you know. And you just pet its chin. It just stand there and look at you all happy. What was the name of that? Oh, who knows the name of that? Julie, what was the name of that emu? Oh, I forget. It had a name. It was like the little pet around there. But I'll tell you what, that was the coolest job. Of course, all the trucks had to shut the gate in and out. Couldn't leave none of them open so no animals would get out. They had a few bulls left in there and a couple cows. And that was the coolest thing ever, to watch those animals in there while we were working. And I'll never forget that. Go pulling in there every morning. You was always looking to see where the elk were hiding out at or what they were doing. And there was all kinds of trails back in there. We had 4 different landings on that job. That's how big of a piece it was. And oh, was that ever cool. Julie knows. Anybody that worked there, you won't forget it. Just because it was so cool. Opening the gate every morning, locking the gate every night, and the different animals wandering around. But them bulls scared the beans out of me that first day. I mean, they scared me. I didn't know. They could have ran me, and who knows what had happened. But that was the coolest job, was on an elk ranch. And I never did see the whitetails back in there. But the emu would come wandering around, and it'd just kind of follow you around. And finally, when the owner's son-in-law told us that, yeah, you can go ahead and pet it, and I was still a little leery of it, we went and petted the thing. But that thing was standing there looking eye to eye with these beady little red eyes. It was kind of it was a little weird. But I'll never forget those elk running behind the chipper, and you go for a walk and you'd see them wandering around, and man, was that ever a cool job. Back before YouTube. Now, if I would have had this channel going, I'm telling you guys, you'd have loved it. And that's one of them things where, man, if I had recorded instead of take pictures, and I hope I have pictures, I'm not sure if I do. If I would have had some recordings to put up here for you guys to see, it'd have been delightful, because it was pretty darn cool. There was a couple spikes in there, and just seeing those big animals, kind of like the other day when I was up to Gaylord on the boot video. They're just a cool animal to look at. So that was the coolest job I ever worked on. I don't know if I'll ever get to work on another one as cool as that. I hope so. But man, I'll never forget that. We had that chipper buried so bad, guys, you wouldn't even have believed it. I mean, it was bad. I can remember more stories there. Oh, the trucker stories I got. Just that place, the truckers almost fist fighting in the landing. One guy wouldn't show up. We had to go rescue the truck because he left it. He wouldn't bring it back, and he wouldn't come to work. And the excuses he had for not coming to work were priceless, just on that one job. And that's one reason why I made this YouTube channel, because some of the stuff that happens out here is just priceless, and you can't make it up. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I did it, because Mike always told me, my father-in-law, who owns all this stuff, he always told me, you got to write a book, because he wished he had wrote a book, because the stories he could tell will just bust your gut, you know. And I'm not much for book reading. I like a good book, but I'd rather watch the movie, you know what I mean? Words can't portray exactly what happens out here, you know. So, but that was one of the jobs, man. If I'd have had this going, oh, it'd have been excellent. I mean, what was his name? Was it, oh, Mike, you guys remember? Green Lawn? Was it Green Lawn? Greenhorn? Green something. He wouldn't show it. He lived, I'll just tell you a quick couple little stories. Just one guy. He lived by the mill, which is about a 2-hour drive from here where we're working. He lived by the mill, so he'd drive the truck to the mill, dump it every night, and then he'd come back to work the next day. Well, he quit coming back to work the next day. The first excuse the first day was neighbor's house burned down. They had to move in with him. Okay. You know how you get them guys that some people do have stories like that, and it's true, but then other people don't have stories like that every day. So the next week, of course, day after payday, was he got a chip in his eye at the mill when he was dumping his load, and he had to go to the eye center. Now the eye center up there is like a real deal one, not like a walk-in clinic or something. I mean, it's like a real deal, fancy, huge building, and I'm like, so that was the next excuse. Well, the next excuse, it was so perfect, because a lot of guys, you know, they give me a lot of excuses and whatever, but I love it when Mike's on the job, and Mike gets the excuses. He comes around every now and then. The last one was his son got attacked by a dog, and he wouldn't answer his phone. Got bit by a dog. We couldn't get a hold of him. Mike was trying to call him, and it turns out he got a hold of him about noon, and he says, oh, I left my phone in my semi, and I've been in the hospital all morning. And Mike goes, okay, you know, that's fine, whatever, just, you know, bring that truck down and get a load. Okay. So, a while later, no show. No show. No show. Well, where's he at? Called him back. Oh, he had to get tested for rabies, so he couldn't come to work because of that. It was stories like that all the time. And I'll never forget that story. He had more of them excuses. He'd give them to me, and I'm like, come on, man, just come to work. But he had more excuses. Oh. But yeah, the final one was the rabies, so he couldn't make it for the load anyways. And he didn't come the next day, and it just didn't work out. But then we had a couple truckers wanting to fight in the landing, and one wanted to fight. I don't think one really did. But you're always going to get people like that at work. Like I said, I'm around these guys more than I'm around my own family. I mean, we spend more time together. We're just bound to get into an argument here and there. That's just you get enough guys in a room, and we're going to have an argument, whatever else. But anyways, I'm kind of off track now. But that was the coolest job I ever worked on. Was that job there. And that was, then we worked a job across the road from there after we got that one done. That was the first job across the road, man. I wish I had video where we had every piece of equipment we had out there stuck. We had both bunchers, we were running 2 skidders, and the dozer were all stuck. That was a bad day. And there was just these pockets of just suck holes back in there. We got just, you know how it went. You get one machine stuck, you go to pull it out, you get the other one stuck, you go to pull it out, the other one gets stuck. It was like, oh no. I'll never forget all of us woods guys standing out there going, how are we going to get out of this? And the dozer finally popped out. And, oh man. If I would have had If I'd have had a camera going, you guys would have had some good laughs because we looked like some buffoons out there trying to get something done. Now that was, again, that was all, it was right during that time that Mike says we got to get some skidder power. And we got that 545, and then the winter after that or something, we got the Pulse 535. And that changed everything. That really made a big difference in our wood output, just because that was where we were lacking. Our weakest link. We got her healed up. Oh man, was that job ever something. I had more fun watching them animals. That was cool. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed my little story. And just let me know in the comments what you want to see. I like to get some feedback. I don't want to make a bunch of videos that everyone finds boring or non-entertaining. You know what I mean? So anything you want to see, comment below. Hope you all enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching. Just keep rolling. And ladies and gentlemen, stay out of trouble.